I am here with the Dynasty Podcast. And today's guest is a very special guest. It's a friend of mine. His name is Jordan Sarmento. He owns his own agency. He is a legend in the insurance space. And we wanted to bring him on here to talk about how he's building his own dynasty. Jordan Sarmento, welcome to the podcast, brother.
So, baby.
How are you, man?
Dude, I love this. You got the Dynasty Podcast. We've been talking about this for a while.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you told me you were actually, believe it or not, because of your podcast, you were like, look, man, you would really be good at doing this. And of course, my friend Fuego, who runs this podcast, and both of you kind of pushed me to do this. And I'm just so happy that I actually, listen.
Yeah,
right?
man.
And so it's always good to have people around you that want to see your message get out and help other people. But, that's enough about me today. People want to know about you, brother. Before we ever start the podcast, I always like to start it off with, who is Jordan Sarmento? Let the audience know who you are and what they can expect from you.
Yeah, no. Well, a lot of people in Orlando, they think that I'm this health insurance, that professional marketer, whatever you want to call it. But dude, before I even worked in the health insurance industry or in insurance in general, I've been a musician my entire life.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
I've been a musician. I was since 13, 14 years old, I started playing piano. I grew up in church and I went to music school out in Kansas City, lived in LA. I moved out to LA in 2014, got signed to an EDM label, did the whole music scene. And then 2020 hit, COVID happened. And that's when just everything changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, dude, it's been a crazy ride, and it's been nice to come back to Florida. I'm sure you'll know that pretty soon. You already know I'm conservative as hell. You don't like it, I'm sorry. That's why I came back to Florida. If you live in LA during COVID and during commie over there, you're gonna see quickly you don't want to live in California. So
yeah, California and New York very tough during that time.
Dude, California red pilled me.
Yeah,
like in a major way. It really did. And it just made me question like what I want to do with my life. Like at the end of the day, yes, I love music. I love creating music, but there's bigger things going on in our country, and it doesn't even matter how much money you make, what your business is doing, because if the country falls apart, we're all losing everything anyways.
That's true.
So that's what
if the dollar isn't worth anything.
We're seeing that.
Point of making it, right?
Seriously. I know. Straight up.
Now, it kind of, I know a little bit about your story, but kind of what you illustrated from you going from California to get here.
Yeah.
What inspired you to start in the insurance industry?
What inspired me to get in the insurance industry was something that you would never think. It was actually getting kicked. It all started with me getting kicked out of a cheesecake factory in California for not showing a vaccine card.
Wow. I
was living in California. I was going to a cheesecake factory in Beverly Hills. They had just passed the law back in 2020 where in order for you to even go to a restaurant or if you go to get a cup of coffee, a piece of pizza, you literally had to show a Pfizer card to get in. I didn't have that card. They kicked me out. And that was the first time I was like, hold on, what the frick is going on? Like, this is freaking crazy. That's why I started being inspired, started learning about our country. Is this really about health? I started looking into politics, and that whole entire cycle got me into learning about politics. Because the only reason why I'm actually even in the insurance industry today is because I found something that my avatar, you would say in the marketing world, again, because I built this political podcast and I had a political following from me calling out the BS that was happening in LA. And I was trying to find something that would relate to the audience that I was speaking to. And for me, private insurance made sense because what is something you got to look at, whatever business or whatever industry you're in, you got to say, all right, what are the parallels for the people that I'm trying to reach?
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of conservatives following me because I was talking about a lot of conservative issues. And so I'm like, well, what's something that everyone needs? Well, insurance is one of them. Well, how can I niche this down to the point, or what product can I sell that my audience would relate to? Private insurance. They hate the government.
Yeah.
Let's sell something. And that's kind of how the light bulbs went off. And that's where I met you in the private insurance industry. And that's how we're here today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's funny because that's how a lot of people learn. First, it becomes an interest, and then it becomes not an obsession in a bad way, but an obsession to where you want to learn more about it so that you end up creating a career out of it. And because of that, you've been extremely successful. And can you point to a pivotal moment that made you successful, that contributed to your success?
Yeah. So, man, it's a good question. A lot of people look at my success today and they see, man, he had a podcast, he had a big following, or he had, a email list to go after before, and that's why he has the advantage. But people don't realize in order to get that following, you know what it took? Number one, it took boldness to actually speak about something that wasn't popular. Mm-hmm. You got to wherever the crowd is going, go the opposite. Yeah. That is what I've truly learned over the last 5 or 6 years of any industry that you're in. But it also, in 2020, I read probably, a book every 2 weeks. A lot of people, my friends, were partying. They were doing their own thing during 2020. No one was working. It was like vacation for everyone. I hit the books. I got licensed. I learned the industry. I learned marketing. I took a course from Gary Vee. I took a course from Ty Lopez. And I used that 1 year to educate myself and fill my brain with knowledge because I didn't know what product I wanted to sell yet.
Yeah.
I did not know. I didn't know if I was going to go in the insurance space. I didn't know if I was going to sell health. I was going to sell life. I didn't know if I wanted to do. Amazon was actually on the picture. Getting my real estate license again. I didn't know exactly where it was going to land, but what I did know was that I'm going to have to reach people. Yeah. And so I think number one, taking in that education and then learning was a humongous thing of learning the marketing. And then when I decided where I want to go, starting the podcast, in order for that podcast to get popular, I did a Instagram live show Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Wow.
I didn't miss one night, bro. Straight up. I didn't miss one night. We did a 1 hour live Instagram live podcast every night for a little over a year. And I was the booking agent. I had 3 different influencers on every single night. I prepped the questions. I prepped the stories. I prepped literally everything. Then I was doing reels and I was posting all the reels. That was literally how I built this thing. And it took a year of doing that every single day, not including the years of education. So when I walked into the health insurance industry, I already knew who was my audience. I had an audience to speak to, and I already had those skills to actually make this thing. All I had to learn was product.
It's so amazing that you say that because a lot of people, you did opposite of the majority, which is what you illustrated and talked about just now. And a lot of people, what they did during COVID was they took it as vacation, whereas you took it to learn. And I remember during the pandemic, I was thinking I could either choose to relax during this time or I can choose to build my own dynasty or my empire. And what happened in 2020, you can see those who prepped for it in 2024.
100%.
Right? And so it's amazing to see because you do have a successful agency. You've been really successful there. America First
Healthcare,
which is America First Healthcare. You guys do a phenomenal job with helping many, many people throughout the country. What do you do to keep your agents up to speed with everything that's going on in the insurance industry and in the world when it comes to health?
And you never stop learning. I think the moment that you die is when you stop living. Mm-hmm. The moment you stop becoming successful is when you stop learning. Yeah. And I see that in my business all the time. I know that my business starts to struggle, which then, because again, you're only good as the top. So when my business starts to struggle, when I stop learning, when I stop my education, when I stop reading, then I actually lose that inspiration. Then I see it affect my agents. And so every single Monday, even in our team meetings, every Monday, the first 15 minutes, I do a devotional with them. I talk about something spiritual. So whatever I read that morning in the scriptures I actually speak about it for 10 to 15 minutes because, and you know this more than anything, culture is a family. Yeah. In order to build culture, you have to build family. I've actually come to you hey, how have you built the culture that you have built at Dynasty headquarters right now? Because what you guys have is something special. It's bigger than insurance. It's bigger than all of that. And so I try to keep first the focus. Every Monday we talk with hey, I want your spiritual well-being. I want your mental health. I want you to be in a place where you actually are in a good spot so that you can even talk to clients, that you can even become successful. Because if you don't take care of that first, but then I encourage people when it comes to technology, mean, I tell people, you've got to learn marketing. You have to learn skills because sales is just one part of it. And if you want to be successful, whatever it is, and I knew that even when I first got into the health insurance industry, one thing that annoyed me so much was I hate that I had to rely on others to find my success. And that's what I was like, I have to have multiple lanes in the water, multiple lines, so that if one dries out over here, and just like having multiple streams of income, if you only have one stream of income, you're always at risk.
Yeah.
So you want to have 5, 7, 10 streams of income. So if one dries up, you still got 6 or 7 coming. You're not stressed out.
Yeah.
Because now by that time, when this one dries up, you're creating another one over here. So that is like the main thing I push is, yes, you want to learn new technology. You got to, I tell my team, you've got to be reading a book a month, every single month. You got to keep learning.
Yeah. Going back to something that you said, it's so refreshing to hear someone that isn't afraid of their faith with this country trying to, bury it. To hear that you do that, because ultimately, like in some of my meetings on Fridays, I always use biblical principles because ultimately, I think because you're a reader, when you read books and you go and look back and you can see that they reference Bible scriptures. And so ultimately, it's the ultimate guide. And I'm not afraid, and I'm glad that you're not ashamed of it. You've always been that way. Yep. Always had great core Christian values, and I think that's great. And it's good because even if someone does not share that same belief, they respect the fact that you are standing up in a country that right now tries to bury the belief. Yep. Even in like the NFL and NBA, when
Mahomes,
they say when some of the NFL players are like, I would like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. They cut it out now.
And they do.
As if it's offensive to say something that you believe in your Lord Savior Jesus Christ. Like, and they call, and I'm a Christian, but they call like different Muslims radical just for having their certain belief. Yep. And you have to be radical for what you believe. The
reason is, and again, I'm a hardcore conservative. I love a free country. But I mean, communism and a lot of the tentacles of evil cannot exist with a nation that believes in God.
Yeah.
Because big government wants them to be God. You can, the moment you can actually remove God, that's why, like at the beginning of every communist regime, if you study it, when you study what happened in China, what happened in the Soviet Union, what even happened in Venezuela, the first thing they have to do is they have to remove God from schools.
Yeah.
They have to remove God from everything so that because if people find their trust in God, they're not going to put their trust in government.
Yeah.
So they need to remove that faith first so that you can now, if I don't have my faith in God, government's the only thing that I can turn to.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen in our country over and over again over the last, I mean, really since I was a kid. Yeah. And dude, regardless whether you're a Christian, whether you're Buddhist, like, dude, Jesus was the raddest, dopest, rawest dude the planet Earth has ever seen, regardless whether you believe he's God or not. Read it as a history book.
Yeah.
Because this dude, I mean, you had the most religious, the most think of like the pastors, the wealthiest, biggest pastors of today, the Pharisees. They bring Jesus, this prostitute that just got caught banging another dude who's also married. And they said, yo, the law of Moses says we got to kill her right now. What do you say to you? They try to put Jesus in this pickle. Yeah. And Jesus said, he who has no sin, cast the first stone. Like the dude always, he was the sauciest guy, and he cared about the weak. He loved like Zachariah. I mean, I'll go talk about Jesus forever, bro.
Let's do it.
Like Zacchaeus, like the dude. Zacchaeus was a tax collector. Zacchaeus was known for the guy that stole from the poor. Zacchaeus is the guy where on middle of the night, dude, you got guys that are homeless and they're blind, and he would literally take their money and walk away from it, from the poor. And Jesus was in public said, hey, Zacchaeus, you're dining at my house tonight. You're having dinner with me tonight at my house.
Yeah.
And that's why I personally love reading about Jesus. And he's a part of everything that I do, because that's where you can find your humility. That's how you can know how you can lead a team. That's how you can, when you can put people, and when they do you wrong, you're not going to lead with anger. You're actually going to lead with grace and mercy, still justice. Yeah. But at the same time, that's why Jesus is a part of my life. I love it. And hopefully it affects the people that are put into my,
absolutely, man. I mean, it is the ultimate blueprint.
Yeah.
And his life, being Christian, is to be Christ-like. His life is something that we should, we'll never reach.
Yeah.
there's no man who's ever been perfect.
Yeah.
But, ultimately, like, I love the fact that you do that. And I love the fact that you take the time to have that devotion with your agents, because I respect it. If no one says anything, I respect it because it's something that the country is trying to go away from. What do you think are some like crucial things that, agents or aspiring agents or maybe new agents, what are some crucial skills or crucial habits that you believe that they need to have in any business if they're starting? Because, this new age, which I absolutely love, is more focused on entrepreneurship. In my office, we have 18, 19, 20-year-old kids who will never go do a W-2 simply because they want to own their own time. What do you think are some crucial habits and crucial skills that they need to have, because you've been successful and you're helping those around you become as successful or better?
This generation is the most unique, and there's no question. And I love that about Gen Z, is that Gen Z, they're like, I'm not working at Publix. I mean, again, my age, like my first job was Best Buy. Like, you're going to go get a quick $9 an hour. That's where you start. You're going to go to college and then climb the ladder. Gen Z is like a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah.
Gen Z, though, also want to get very quick, fast money.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing that, like, education, dude, like wherever, like, you got to plan your attack. You got to plan your business. Like, hey, I want to get in the health insurance industry, or I want to get into the real estate industry, or I want to get into financial advising. Why? Like, why do you? All right. Then you need to, like, who is the person you're trying to reach? Because we can get into a system and we can get into any other company, but most health insurance companies, life insurance companies, any 1099 job or sales job, like, they're going to give you a freaking book to read. They're going to say, here, take this, do this 10-course boot camp, and you're on your own.
Yeah.
Like, you got to know who you're trying to reach. So I think the two biggest skills, yes, you got the sales part, but that's only one half that people focus on. Anyone can talk. I mean, that's a lie. Yeah. But there's a skill of sales. Then there's the skill of marketing. And that marketing is something that we ignore, because the marketing actually gets them to the door for you to even be able to talk to them. If you can't get them to the door, and that marketing, it doesn't just always look like Facebook ads. I mean, we're talking about networking. We're talking about knowing, like, seriously, people go to conferences, but then they don't even know how to even present themselves. How do I talk to someone to even start a conversation? Like, when I tell my team, hey, you're going to this conference, go on YouTube right now and go on how to network at a meeting. Because you're going to need to stand out. And there's books that you can read about it. But again, I would say marketing is the number one foundation of everything, because you ain't selling nothing unless you know how to market yourself.
Exactly. I love that, because Gen Z, they've always had access to internet. They've always had access to what I like to call the golden age for information, right? And so what are some, like, continuous learning or professional development that played a huge role in your career? Like, what do you think has helped you?
Say that question again.
What role does continuous learning and professional development play?
It's everything.
Everything.
It's literally everything, dude. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that the moment you stop learning, your business dies. Because, and I notice it within my own business, when I'm not reading, and I always go back to reading because reading is the main thing, or even listening to a podcast, or you're taking a course, or you don't, like, right now I'm like in the search of finding a really good business coach in the marketing space. When I'm not learning, I'm not inspired, dude. And it goes back to scripture, and we were talking about this in the car, that you can't live. Jesus even says, like, don't live off the old manna. Like, you can't survive off old food. You need to have that continuous food. You need to have that inspiration, because that is where the life is. That's the process. That's when you're learning something new, you have something inspiring to say, I learned something new. I want to bring this to my team, and it causes new ideas, and it's this ripple effect. And when you're in a community of team that are all learning together as a team, as a culture, dude, the energy's there, the success is there, the prosperity's there. It's just a ripple effect from there. And so, no, but that is like the foundation. You got to be in a place where you have that inspiration, because if not, you're just you're in a dying community. You're in a dying business.
And like, a lot of people, and I went and spoke to another office the other day, and they're always asking, what's the secret sauce? And the secret sauce really is I remember when I joined the health insurance industry, I had previously been a trainer for a Fortune 100 insurance company. Yeah. I was a top producing agent. They took me off the floor to train all the new agents because they wanted me to duplicate myself. And when I came to health insurance, I realized that there was no focus on continuous education. Mm-hmm. So what happened, you would do your pre-licensing. They would give you maybe a script and throw you in the deep end in hopes that you either float, learn to swim, or sink.
Come on.
And when I looked at that, I was like, man, this isn't fair, because I saw a bunch of really highly capable people who can be successful, but they need guidance. Wow. And so from there, I created what we call Dynasty University. Yeah. Like, I spent countless hours, man. I wouldn't leave the office till 1, 2 in the morning every night after doing all of the work, selling products, training.
You're still doing it.
Still doing it, right? And I had this focus. Attrition teaches, like a lot of businesses, like or 1099 locations, right? Or businesses as a whole. When someone decides to quit, they like to point the finger at that person, rather than realizing the only reason why the person quit was because the opportunity didn't give them exactly what they needed. So we lost about 22 people in a matter of maybe 3 months. And what I did in private, no one knew this, I called every single one of them. And I said, why is it that you quit? Why is it that you're no longer here? Well, I didn't really have enough training for this. I didn't have enough training for that. And that's how I built Dynasty University. Wow. And it's forever changing, and continued education is huge. A community of learning, individuals learning together with one common goal. And because training is good, and I share this all the time, LeBron James has been great in the NBA for 21 years, but he still pays $1 million a year to train his body. He still spends countless hours shooting the ball. So does Steph Curry. And why is it that people who are great, who are champions, still are training, and we look down at training as if it's a bad thing? And that's what makes us successful, is that really there's a high focus on continued education. And the motto at the agency, at least, is no agent left behind. And the only way agents get left behind, or in any business, the only way they get left behind is if someone doesn't keep that sword sharpened. Yeah. Right. And so that's a huge thing.
So good, bro. So good, man. It's true.
It's people like, and you said this to me about the manner thing, but it reminded me of, you can't put new wine in old skins, right? And so that's like, I had to get my Bible juice flowing.
You do, man. But the thing is, like, if you look at every successful entrepreneur, like, there's always a faith attached to it, dude. Like the billionaires, the people that we look up to. I mean, when you actually get in a one-on-one conversation with them, or even when they speak on stage, like, they talk about their faith. Like, there is a correlation. There is some type of thing that they're all saying the same thing. Why? Yeah. And it's bigger than us. Yeah. And when you're actually a selfless person, you draw that attention. Yeah. That goes back to the book of How to Win Your Friends and Influence People. Ooh. You want to hear you want someone to talk about you, ask about them. Yeah. Like, give unto others as you would want to do unto them. Yeah. It's the same, like, it's this upside down kingdom. And when you go the other way, you stand out. When you go the other way, you make big impact. Yeah. When everyone's going this way, you want to go that way, because that's the boring way. Mm-hmm. That's the boring way. And even when it comes to business, like when it comes to like health insurance, it's such a boring thing to talk about. Exactly. Like, health insurance is boring as hell. Who wants to sell health insurance for a living? No. But it sounds way cool where it's like, hey, I'm actually helping create the parallel economy for conservatives, that we can find other alternatives to the freaking government. Yeah. Like, that's something that people can get behind. That's marketing. Yeah. That's the movement. But as well, there's parallels when it comes to faith to it, man. Yeah. So
it's insane. Like, this is why I don't allow anyone to teach Dynasty University, because insurance is boring.
It is. It is a boring thing.
And the way that I teach it, I try to include a sense of humor. I try to make it relevant. I think the best way that I teach is I always use analogies for real life situations that they're using, and stories. I mean, Jesus taught in parables. Yeah. And that's what makes some of his stories so connected.
He only taught in parables. I mean, like, we just had a red light. Right? Jesus always spoke in stories.
And so it's crazy because, I have some people who are like, why you're going on a rant? No, I'm not. Because everyone leaves that classroom understanding because the stories connect them to the concept.
Come on, bro.
Right? And the concept, and that's why Jesus was like so great at that, because we can go back and we can think about that, right? And so it is absolutely phenomenal. That like staying on this topic of learning, I always ask this because I love reading.
Yep.
And I told you, and I'm glad that you said this, like lately I haven't read. I've been more focused on like winning. And I felt like, man, I'm not as sharp.
You're on E.
I'm on E.
Yeah.
And so I always ask everyone on every single episode, what book had the biggest impact, or what is one of your favorite books that led to you being successful today?
Yep. The two biggest books that have the impact, and this is going to be cliche, but I got to say it, the Bible. I mean, it's the book I read every day.
Yeah.
The Bible, hands down, is the book. I mean, and it's a book of books, honestly. So,
66 of them.
Yeah, there's 66 of them, man. Again, and I'll get into my self-help motivational book here in a second, but you're somewhere like you don't know where to start with the red letters, man. Just read the words of Jesus. Red letters of Jesus, the most impacting stories, the best storyteller of all time, hands down, the Bible. Second, How to Win Friends with Influence People, which is what I just brought up. And again, what I love about that book, and there's so many good books. I mean, we can talk about Atomic Habits. We can talk about so many. Tony Robbins has so many incredible books. But what I like about How to Win Friends with Influence People is that, I mean, it gives you so many practical. Each chapter is like 2 pages, 3 pages. It's short, simple, sweet, and to the point. Like the power of a smile. Like something that you overlook that anyone can do. It's very easy to apply it.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it. And I never thought that when you walk into a room, someone that walks in with a smile and someone that doesn't, like people automatically have that first impression. It goes into the first impression. So I would say How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is the #1 book of all time that has had the biggest impact because there were so many applicable tools that I could apply to it in a short amount of time. And it was easy for me to remember.
Yeah. Now, I love that. And how do you think like some of these books, well, especially, I already know the answer for the Bible, but like, how do you feel like some of these books will impact maybe some of the most challenging times in your career?
Yep.
Or like, if you can think of at least one example of how you were able to use some of the principles from a book, even if it's the Bible, which, I mean, I'm sure the Bible has many of them that helped you overcome challenges in your career.
I remember, I'll never forget, there was a tiny little book. I think it's called Storybook by Tony Robbins, probably 70 pages, the most simple book I've ever read. And I was going through the biggest depression of my life. This is right around COVID. I just lost like my entire 6-figure income in the music industry. One of the most impactful books. And again, there's so many, there really is, but I'll never forget. Back when I was living in California, I had just lost my salary, the job in the music industry. Every studio shut down, every gig was done. And in one moment, I just had this tiny little book that my uncle told me to read. He's like, read this book. And there was so many little tools from that, but it's just, what's amazing is that from that 70-page book, it got me out of my depression, which just shows that you just have to find help and you can't stay in that exact same place.
Yeah.
Sorry,
No worries. Grant Cardone has this very short book. I forgot what is it, Closer's booklet or Closer's something. And there is a phenomenal way that he illustrates how you can know your clients, right? And he says, no, KNOW. In order to know your client, you must first have the knowledge of what they're interested in. Then you must have the wisdom to connect your product to that knowledge.
Good.
And if you can't do that, then you have what's in the middle. It's called no sale. And that book is literally, I teach discovery because I feel like it's the foundation and the most important part of any interpersonal transaction. If you I use this illustration all the time. If you come to my car lot and I'm a car salesman, you come with your nieces and nephews. I don't ask the right question. I think your nieces and nephews are your children. So I take you to an SUV or a sedan, but you're really in the back of your head in the market for a coupe because these aren't your children, right? And so if I don't know that, you might even test drive the car just for your nieces and nephews to have a good time. Then you look after the test drive and you're like, you know what? I got to go. I'm like, oh, hold on, let's go to financing. I'm not interested in that. And ever since I read that book, it's always changed my perspective on how to pitch, right? Because the pitch begins in the moment where you are in discovery, right? And unless you know your client, unless you know what you're doing, your pitch is nothing.
Well, that's why we do it. That's why we do a 2-call system. And I personally hate 1-call closes. I think it's the worst thing because it's so transactional and you can't build enough rapport. That's why at our agency, everything is on a 2-call system. Even if they put in their information, because we want that first call. Like, how do you even know what to offer them?
Exactly.
Like, how do you even know? This is where you get 10 minutes where you get to build that rapport and then prepare something for that client for their needs. If you're versus trying to do a 1-call close and get quick money. Because and when you do a 2-call system and you actually ask the right questions, because sales is about questions. Man. A lot of people think like it's about product knowledge and just spitting. It's like, no, hold on. You don't even. It goes back to what you just said. You don't have to go and spit off every single thing about the product. All that matters is what matters to the product to them. Yeah. And you don't know that without certain questions. So if you're relating something to the health insurance industry, okay, why do you even, before I can even know, Sam, that I can even help you out? Because I don't even know if I can even help you. But if I can, what are you looking for in a health insurance policy? Or what do you use your insurance for? Tell me about your health. Let me know about your questions. What are your concerns? Find their pain points. What do you love about the current plan? What do you hate about your current plan? Finding those loves and hates, and that in our template for our entire agency, if it's in caps, like what do they love? What do they hate? Exactly. And those 2 things is what you're going to focus on the pitch. Yeah. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. Because nothing else matters.
I hate when agents or in any sale, right? They put in their own personal opinion into it. Your opinion doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Everyone buys for their own reason. I share this in Dynasty University. Every 2 weeks, I have a new group of agents that come in for Dynasty University. It's a 3 to 4 week training program. And we have a graduate program where
you guys are growing too.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are growing.
Yeah. When they start writing their own business for themselves, there's another 4-week training called the graduate program to make sure that they excel to become elite, because I don't want a revolving door.
That's good.
What I want to do is grow a large agency, but I don't want the agents that started this year to not be here next year. So if I'm just like bringing in people just to stay at the same level, then I'm never going to really have a big business. Right. Although the numbers look good, I want to make sure that we're really building what we call a dynasty.
Come on, bro. you gotta live up to the name.
And so that's the truth, man. That's living up to the name. Now, with that being said, for me, I always think continued education is always going to be a part of it. But I want to ask you a question that, because I really do respect you, and I know a lot of people that are going to watch this, listen to this, whether it's the short form or long form content. I know they're going to do this. What are your thoughts on the future trends and opportunities in the insurance industry?
Man, I guess that's a good question. I think that when everyone's going over here, you got to go the other way.
Yeah.
And so I'm actually looking at personally, like one thing that I'm focusing on is what you're doing right now, podcasts. Because with the current trends, networking is hard now. It really is. Like, it's hard to network. Everyone's trying to get everyone's attention, and you have to find new ways to get a hold of people. Right now, what I love about a podcast, and I learned this from Gary Vee, is Gary Vee goes, whoever you want to get a hold of, like, start a podcast. You might have 5 people that will listen to it, and that's okay. All that matters is, this goes back to how to win friends and influence people. Hey, Sam, I know you got this. And if I'm trying to get your business, if I'm trying to tap into what you do and that I can earn your business somehow, I'm going to invite you onto my podcast. Hey, I want to come bring you on my podcast because I want you to tell about your business. Yeah. I want to learn from you. We have an audience that wants to listen to you. And so number one, like, you need to have a place where you can actually get your voice to be heard.
Yeah.
And regardless whether there's 5 followers or there's 1 million followers, if you just have a platform that you can post about, and then you can bring someone on that you're trying to get their business to get them to talk about themselves, that is how you end up playing in that game. When it comes to the trends, I mean, there's the marketing, there's AI, there's, what you guys are doing, you guys are doing a ton of automated texting. There's so many different platforms that you can use. But for me right now, dude, it's all about data.
Yeah.
It's all about how can I get as much data as you can? Because when you take this data, yes, you can drip them, you can text them, you can call them, you can email blast them. And I'm just trying to learn every single different line in the water because there's a crap ton, dude.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming, honestly.
It's a beautiful time to live in. And some people what happens is they get strung up and stuck in their old ways.
Yeah.
And as this world is continuously evolving, so should the businesses that are in it.
Of course.
And so a lot of the times, I think, I love that you say that because this is, you told me this before I started the podcast. And guess who's one of the guests who I'm bringing on?
Come on, baby.
You said, hey, you told me this. And I don't know if you remember some conversations to the person who's actually delivering it seems minimal, but to the other person, it's monumental. And I remember we were in Jamaica and that was our first crack at having a podcast. And you said to me, you was like, dude, you have the voice, you have the wisdom. He was like, you have the culture. You need to do this. And what you need to do is get a couple of people in the industry, call it, I think you even named it. You said, call it the Dynasty Podcast.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
You said, call it the Dynasty Podcast. We're on the balcony. We're having a good time. And here we are today. And so
you just got to do something different.
Yeah.
That's why wherever you are in your workspace, wherever you are, you have to go against the crowd. It's uncomfortable. It's annoying. You get made fun of. You do. People are going to doubt you. They're going to say, oh, this guy, look at this guy. He just joined. He's trying to do this. Sam just started a podcast. He probably has 100 subscribers. Who cares? Yeah. Because all
not
that,
even.
Yeah, not even.
Yeah,
but the reality is I'm here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's way bigger than just what you think it is. And if you actually learn what you could do with podcasting and how you can get people in seats, and you could literally go to, let's just say you want to get someone's business that has a business of 25, 30, and you want to talk to the CEO. You went to the CEO and you're meeting him at a networking event and you said, hey man, I would love to bring you on my podcast. My podcast, we're on Instagram, The majority of these CEOs, they don't even know, they never get asked that. They get asked, I want your business. Yeah. They get asked, hey, here's my business card, call me. Hey, can I get a meeting with you? But do they ever get asked, hey, I would love for you to join my podcast. I love what your business. I'm inspired by you. I would love for you to come on and share what you do and how you got where you are today.
Yeah.
Every single person would say yes.
And anyone who's successful loves to share that story.
Right? How to win friends and influence people.
Everyone wants to share that story. The issue, and this is something that you're really talking about, is the issue is with this instant gratification world that we're in, people despise humble beginnings.
Come on, bro.
And I love what you're saying because it brings me back to even my start in health insurance. There was no one who had social media pages for their teams or their offices. And I would be like, guys, this is what we need to do. And they said, no, you're dumb. We need to do the old way. Just dialing. Nothing changes. Dialing, Yeah. And, I didn't do as good with it as you or maybe some of the other people, Brian Fuller, Parita Patels, or anything like that, Eric Brosworth. I never did as good. No, in this sense, in generating leads with it. But I was doing it back then. And I generated a good amount of leads from my Facebook page. That's the only thing that I was using at that time. But they all despised it. But here we are in 2024. We are the number one converted office in the nation.
Wow.
And now everyone wants to know, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well,
and they're trying to find the quick thing. They're trying to find what did Sam do? But you can't replicate something that took 3 years.
No, they don't. I'm going to tell them it took 7:30 in the morning to 1 a.m. in the office.
Yeah.
It took asking the people who left and not talk shit about them when they leave, asking them exactly, hey, why did you leave? You know how many agents like literally leave and come back because we make it a safe place.
Yeah.
I never talk about any agents poorly when they leave, right? Because of the simple fact that I understand that any business will be either a stepping stone or a career for someone. And I hope that I did my part to make sure that they launch their own business.
Come on.
Like they don't have to stay with me the whole entire time. I hope that they get inspired and they can say, and this is one of my favorite quotes, that your fingerprints never fade on the lives you touch. I just want to leave my fingerprint.
Oh, that's good, bro.
And so that's the only thing that I'm here to do, because I understand, and I've always said this, as long as God keeps creating people, I will help create salespeople. And that's it. And so as long as he does that, and so my business does not rely on 1 or 10. It relies on the multitude of people who understand that this is a dynasty where you will never be left behind. And it's not just about sales, because it's not about, like, for me, no one's a number. In fact, I don't look at the numbers. I look at the agents.
Come on, bro.
That's
how you build culture too.
Exactly. It's lives over override. I have a business partner, Kenzie. She'll tell you, I'm never looking at the numbers. It's not about the numbers. It's, I look at the paychecks. How can I get this person paid? And then I go directly to these leaders and I say, what is it that needs to be done? Because at this point, with the number of bodies in 2 offices, like it's extremely hard to keep up with everyone's day to day, but I'm still invested. I'm still invested.
Well, and you're leading by example by putting in the work.
And I know everyone's story. I know their why. I know their story, because I'm invested in understanding how to get there. And so
that's good leadership, man.
Hey, man, I people like you, it helps, because, we talk about it a lot. Like, you'll talk to me about like culture building and stuff like that. We have a lot of conversations here and there. And that's one thing that I like, is like, you'll call me about one thing, I'm calling you about something else. And it's what the Bible says, iron sharpens iron. And so you're not going to go sharpen iron with a cloth,
Come on, bro.
And so you have to keep a good circle of individuals who are like-minded and who are sharp in areas where you may be dull. And that's okay. If you're dull in an area, as long as you can identify it, you now know what to do to sharpen it. And so, like, I may not be the best marketer. I am good at marketing my team and its culture and recruiting.
You're the recruiter of recruiters, my man.
I'm good at that. However, what you do is so powerful. And not to share your secrets, but of course, you know how to generate leads. And this is why, like, I can call on you for different ideas and stuff like that. And as we're, because I know they probably have someone else, as we're closing this out, is there anything that you want the audience to know? How can they reach you? If there's a story, what legacy, I think this finally, what legacy do you hope to leave as a successful business owner or insurance agent?
It's so good. Well, dude, I appreciate bringing me on the podcast.
Yeah,
dude, I love hearing the story that our conversation in Jamaica inspired you to even do this. And I'm just like I've seen Dynasty grow, and you got hitting now almost 100 agents. To see how fast it's grown. I'm excited to see how this grows.
For sure.
Dude, I want to be a light in darkness, dude. I want. One thing I've learned is that there's seasons of life where God brings people in your sphere of influence. And, I remember my close friends in high school. I have a couple of them. I probably had 40 amazing close friends. Now I have 2. I know I'm still close to 2 or 3 of them. In college, I had another 20 or 30 friends. I'm close to 2 or 3 of them. And there's seasons of life where God brings you those diamonds. But those people around us, and I can't tell countless of stories of how many people I've inspired or I've been inspired by other people's lives and their touches of kindness, being genuine, whatever that is. And I just try to live by that, where right now I got 25 to 30 agents in my office right now. And God has put these people in front of me. And how can I be a light in darkness? Because again, I love what you said. It's not about the overrides. It's about the people that the Lord has placed in front of you that you are now accountable for. And so I just tried to lead with grace, lead with mercy. And when it comes to like what you can do, if you're trying to scale your business, if you're trying to stick out, like niche down, and we've said this like 5 times today, go the other way. Where everyone else is going, swim in a different pond. Like if everyone's saying, I'm getting all my leads over here, or I'm trying to get my business over here. For me, I was like, all right, I got a niche. I got to find something different. All right, I'm going to go to email lists because everyone's doing the phone calls. I'm going to go to email lists. I'm going to, Jordan, what should I'm going to focus on only conservatives. Isn't that going to kill 50% of the country? You're not going to be able to reach. I don't care. I'm going to do niche down marketing, and you got to try new things, but more than anything, you've got to take the risk.
Yeah.
You have to take the risk. You've got to be willing to be laughed at. You got to be willing to be called the white supremacist that I was called, and every single name when I came out as a conservative and as a Trump lover or whatever. You got to be willing to go through the fire if you want to find the gold. If you're not willing to go through the fire, if you're not willing to do the things and stand out and do things that people are not willing to do, don't be the person, and I'll end with this, don't be the person that goes to the conference, they get all excited for 3 days, and they last 1 week and then they die from there.
Stony ground.
Don't build your foundation on stony ground. Build it on solid ground. And that's what I'll leave you with.
Yeah. And with you saying, go into the fire, go the opposite way. And I couldn't end this more perfectly. It's like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. God is with you.
God is with us, my man.
God is with you in that fire, and you would always be protected. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jordan Sarmento, another episode of Dynasty Podcast. I love this episode. Really happy to have my brother here. Where can the people find you, brother?
You can on social media. You can look me up on Jordan Sarmo, Sarmo. And if you want to check out our company, it's America First Healthcare.
All righty. That's the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go.
This is the episode. Thank you, brother. Love you, man.
That was great.
All right, let's go.